Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio begins now. Hear the best in new music, artist interviews, stories from the road, and more. You are now backstage, and here's your host, Mothership.
Hello, everybody. My guests this week are Pera and Brian Boyd of Amongst the Giants. We're going to talk about the Death by Admiration tour they're on right now and their latest release, Black Box. Let's get straight to the call. I have Brian Boyd and Pera of Amongst the Giants. So, Brian, how did you get involved in music?
So it mostly started out when I was 8. I started playing drums. I started getting drum lessons when I was 8. And from around like 8 to 10, I kind of like, I would go and practice. I'd get lessons here and there, whatever. And then like around 10, 11 years old, I stopped for a minute. I just got into other things. I got into middle school and all that stuff. So I still like had my kit and I still played here and there, like every once in a while, like just kind of practicing to myself. I never played like in a band or anything like that until about, I want to say I was 15 or 16. I started a band with Marco and a couple other guys at church. We started practicing, started making songs, writing songs and all that. We had our first show at church, like on a Halloween. So it was like one of those like Halloween, like church, Hallelujah Fest, whatever you want to call it. And we played our first show there, like in this pavilion thing where like the parking lot is. Playing in a band, I definitely gained experience on like how to play with other people and how to like get that dynamic going and all that. So Marco and I actually kind of like grew up playing together and, learning how to be in bands together because we were always in like the same things. Like we went to the same church and all that. We grew up with each other. People were like, oh, you're in a band. Oh, you should play for the worship team. Oh, you should do the youth worship team. You should do this, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So we would start doing worship team things. We would play during camp and all that stuff. All of the guys in the band all went to the same church. So we were all like in the same youth group and all that stuff. So we would even go to youth camp and they'd be like, oh, do you think your band can play after worship, whatever? I'm like, sure, why not? We'll play for a night. I don't care. Time had passed by and Marco actually got introduced to a band back in like 2012 or something like that. And he played a gig with them. And then he told the singer, was like, oh, I know a guy who can play drums. I got the invite and played a show with them. And next thing we know, we started going on the road with them. And our first tour with that band was actually 7 Day Slumber, which is how we met them all and all that.
And y'all were both in Florida, right?
Yep. Yes.
So when did you go from drums to vocalist?
Actually, not until Amongst the Giants.
Oh.
I'd always done like backup vocals here and there on drums and all that stuff. I would do like backup scream vocals most of the time, and then every once in a while like really rough vocals, like rough cleans. I don't know what you call it, like they're kind of like gritty things.
Yeah.
And but I was always just kind of like in the background. And then when we came up with the idea Amongst the Giants, it was like when we were in college, like after we had gone on tour and all that stuff with our old band. And we were just like, why don't we actually do our own thing? Like, why don't we do like our own metal thing, metalcore thing, whatever. And like, I'll be front man and, he's on guitar and all that stuff, just like doing our thing and give it a shot, like see where it goes. And we just started experimenting and we started writing songs. And I think the first song that we had written that actually made it was either The Judge or it was Lost in Translation.
It was Lost.
We started writing Lost in Translation in college. It was a way different song than it is now. And same thing with The Judge. That's a way different song than it is now. Really, all that just kind of changed whenever we went and recorded with Jeremy. When we initially went to record with him, we were only doing like a 4-song EP. And we recorded actually the first 4 tracks on our Obscene album was going to be the EP. And then we just kind of suddenly one day got a call from Joseph Rojas and was like, hey, want to be on a label? And we're like, sure. Okay. Let's turn your 4-song EP into a 10-song album. And we're like, okay, cool.
Easy peasy, right?
Yeah.
So, Marco, we interviewed last February. You had just gotten married and were about to move to Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
How's Nashville?
It's great. It's wonderful. It's really cool. We were thinking about it for a while. I was going back and forth so often. It just didn't make sense for me to stay down in Florida. I was literally making the drive from Florida to Nashville several times a month. I was like, after we get married, let's just move over here. And it's been great. Close to a lot of friends. Josiah and Drew live near me from Disciple, and they're great friends of mine. I play with them, and it's been really good to be here and feel welcomed, so.
Anybody that knows Florida knows that that's a brutal drive.
Yeah, especially since you're coming from the bottom.
Yeah. Are you still in Florida?
Yes, I'm actually about to do that drive on Monday to get ready for tour.
Has Marco tried to talk you into moving up here?
So many times.
He has, his dad has, a lot of people have, and I'm like, I don't really see much of a need right now. I understand the convenience, but for where I'm at personally, I would have to start over.
That makes sense. So how has Obscene been doing since it came out?
Pretty good, actually.
I think it's done really well for us, for a band's first record. You can't really ask for more, like we did the video for Too Late. That was like our single that we pushed the most. And it did pretty good for us, like almost 200,000 streams on Spotify. It's got,
I think it's like
60,000 views on the video on YouTube. And yeah, we can't really ask for much more. We toured with it. We play it every show. Yeah, man, it was a really good experience for us learning as a band and learning what works and what doesn't work. And yeah, I can't imagine a band's first release going any better, honestly.
Mm-hmm. We actually just hit another milestone. Now we officially have about 30,000 views on the Black Box lyric video.
We're going to talk about that in a minute. But first, how do you think the pandemic affected the album?
Obscene came out in 2018. So we had a solid 2 years.
Yeah.
I'm doing stuff with it before the pandemic started. What the pandemic really kind of messed us up with is when we started writing new music. Because we were in 2020 is when we first started going to Kellen in his studio and writing with him. The beginning of 2020. The song that we just released, Black Box, we wrote that in 2020. We started that almost 2 years ago. There was a bit of limbo there because we didn't really know what we were doing because bands aren't really touring, especially bands like us. It didn't really make sense for a new band with not a sizable following to make a new release during a pandemic like that, So as far as Obscene, we pretty much finished our cycle by the time pandemic rolled out.
So now you're trying to gain momentum back again.
Yes. Yep.
Well, let's just talk about Black Box. I listened to it again today. It's an awesome song, very heavy.
Thank you.
A lot of emotion in that song, and it's pretty dramatic.
I would say dramatic. Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, very dramatic. Tell us about the song, either one of you or both of you.
I was like, I want to let Brian do it because he's the one who pretty much wrote most of the song.
So with Black Box, we came in with the idea of just kind of doing something that really had to do with panic. The whole idea derived from a panic attack. For some people that might not know, 2019, we were involved in a bus accident with Seventh Day Slumber, and, it was a bad wreck. The whole bus was totaled and all that stuff. We were on our way to Victoria, Texas to play a show, and, it was just a horrific scene. In the time, you kind of feel adrenaline. You feel okay, you gotta be focused and all that stuff. So in the moment, for me, nothing was really happening. It was just okay, we have to get adrenaline going. We have to get everyone out of here. But then in the weeks leading up to us going back on the road after SDS got a new bus, we got back on a new bus after a week after the crash or whatever. And I started having panic attacks, just being in my bunk, because the way that the thing happened, slippery roads, and it was like snow flurries going down and all that stuff. And there was a semi that kind of cut over to one side, and all that was left for us to hit was a fire truck, which is why the semi kind of moved over so quick. Because of that, whenever you're in the back of a large vehicle or anything like that, whenever there's any kind of sway, you feel it. Hard jerks or some kind of sway happening, maybe the wind is happening, you feel it when you're in the back. So at the time when we were getting back on the road, I started having panic attacks because we were kind of having those little bits of sway. And whether it was roads were slippery or it was just that's just the nature of being on it. In the moment, everything was just exaggerated, Mm-hmm. Your heightened senses and everything. Mm-hmm. And I remember sitting there in my bunk, panicking, like, are we going to crash again? Are we going to die? Are we this, that, whatever, all these negative thoughts. And like the only thing that like I'm seeing in front of me is just all black. It's nighttime. I'm in a bunk that has like a big black curtain stretching out across it. So it almost feels like you're in like this black coffin. That's where like the whole idea of like black box came from. The way that got me to cope with that and to like take me out of that panic was like remembering the idea of you have to focus your breathing. The whole visual that I had trying to come up with that was this translucent white box with like smoke going in and smoke coming out. It made me feel like that was like my lungs, like breathing in and breathing out. And that's actually where the idea of the artwork for Black Box came from. So if you see that artwork that, you know, is tagged with Black Box and Spotify and all that stuff, and you'll see like little bits of smoke in it, whatever, like that's the idea behind it.
Okay.
It's about being in a state of panic and really trying to get yourself out of it, like trying to figure out like the best ways to get yourself out of it, and that there is some sort of hope there, even though it feels very hopeless. The lyrics are very dark because when you're in that state, it is a very dark state.
Backstage with Mothership returns after this. You're listening to Backstage with Mothership on Solid Rock Radio. Out Performance Shop is a proud supporter of Solid Rock Radio. They specialize in retail and wholesale of automotive, high-performance, racing, and off-road products. They also carry a variety of accessories from remote control cars to rock and roller multi-carts. On the web at outperformance.com.
What about you, Marco?
I've been dealing with panic attack and anxiety since I was 13 years old. Pretty like clinical, diagnosed, all the fun stuff. So, I didn't really write any of the words. We rewrote it when we got in the studio, certain parts, and like kind of like messed around with the structure and stuff. It was very much his vision, and it was a very strong one, and we wanted to just kind of support it, you know, for this song. Like there are songs on this upcoming EP that are like that for me. It was a collaborative type of deal. But yeah, it's definitely something that I personally relate to. Anyone who deals with panic and anxiety deals with it in different flavors and deals with it in different ways. So the way I would try to explain it wouldn't be the same, you know, as Brian's. Actually, what's funny is like you'll hear in a lot of these songs coming up that we're going to be releasing, it's like different perspectives. You know, there's a couple of different topics on it. It's overall a very introspective record, you know. But yeah, I'm really happy with how it turned out. Kellen did a really good job at producing us and bringing the best out of us, my vocals with his vocals. I think it ended up being a really, really cool, heavy, just banger of a song, you know, that's straightforward, but we threw everything that we can into it, you know, like as much attention to detail as we possibly can. So
On all the songs, really.
Yeah.
How many songs have you got?
I think it's a total of 6.
Yeah, we're gonna be releasing a 6-song EP, and right now that's all we can say.
Yeah, I was gonna say how close are we, but I guess we don't get to hear that.
Well, we don't know yet. So.
Okay, so it's all unknown. So you've got 6 in the works.
No, they're done.
They are done.
They're actually mixed and everything. They just need to be mastered.
Yep.
So that's pretty far along.
They're all done, and they all mixed by Kellen McGregor from Memphis Mayfire, co-wrote, produced, and it is some of the best music that we've ever been a part of. And me and Brian played in bands since we were little. For me personally, like it was a different experience, this record, than making the last one. It's nice to feel like you're an artist, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Kellen gets around, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You know, he is 100% high in demand right now. And it's funny because like we started working with him when he wasn't doing it as much, you know, so we kind of got lucky.
There you go. I want to ask you about your vocals. Both of you guys can scream. Both of you have good, clean vocals, too. Who decides who does what, or how does that work?
Whoever serves the song the best, I think, is what we usually try to go to. I will say that this last release has definitely been a more collaborative type of deal when it comes to the vocals. Because, like, to compare it to the last record, I was very much writing all of the parts and the music for the most part. You know, that was like my lane, and I helped write the choruses and I sang the choruses and stuff. It didn't come secondary, but it was the main thing, you know, that I had to focus on was tracking everything and writing all the parts and doing. Yeah, this time around it was different. Kellen has understands this style so well, that a lot I'm not gonna say I didn't have to write, but it took a lot of pressure off of me, that I didn't have to worry as much about arranging everything and as much about how are we going to get from this part to this part to this part. He was very, very quick about that. So we were able to just be artists and be like, okay, well, this is the way we want the song to feel. This is the way we want this to kind of, and then just kind of go with it if we like the idea. As far as our vocals, there's definitely more trade-off between us two in this one than the last one. I would say it's almost like a dual vocal type of deal in a good way. Like Brian's still the front man. Brian's still, he's still the guy amping up the crowd and doing, but he's singing a lot more on this record too. And I'm screaming a lot more on this record. So it's kind of it's more of a mix. We think it's a really cool effect for somebody watching, and it's a really cool thing to hear. There's a lot of fun stuff you can do with it, That's basically what I'm saying.
What about you, Brian? You prefer screaming?
Yeah, I think my preference is screaming just because it's something that I know, but I'm not someone who's so set in my way where I'm oh no, I will only do this, I will only do that, whatever. I'm always looking to challenge myself and challenge my own thinking, my own ability. So there are even parts I was hey, so should I scream this part? How should I scream this part or whatever? And Kellen's why don't you do more of a rough clean here? I was oh, okay. That's not how I heard it, but I'll give it a try and I'll do my best and all that. And there are some moments where I'm I didn't even know I could do something like that.
Would you say it's more like a vocal fry?
Yeah, more of a vocal fry. I think about Metallica in a way. He's obviously screaming clean vocals, but it's very gritty. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of that in this record.
That was the main focus, actually, I would say, of this whole project. If I were going to say the difference between this release and Obscene is a very musically instrument-driven record, just because that's what we've both known for so long, and this time around we wanted the vocals to take the center spotlight for everything. We wanted everything to kind of support the vocals and still be heavy, but we wanted to anchor the song that way, just in a different way, And because of that, that is actually what we took the most time on, is vocals, writing, melody, getting the right takes.
Really structuring it.
Yeah. A good example. So Black Box is a pretty traditional metalcore structure. And a lot of the songs there are very grounded. There's not a whole lot of craziness. That's still us. We still have cool musical moments because that's just the stuff we like, But we wanted the vocals to really take center. We have two guys who love to sing and love to scream, who feel we have some things to say in this aspect, So it was nice. For me, it was nice to speak with my voice as opposed to my guitar as much. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it might not always be like that. It's just for this time around. That's what we wanted. We do vocals very differently. Mine is kind of a yell, a little bit more like a guttural Cookie Monster type of scream, and there's a lot more finesse with his. He's able to do a lot more things. I kind of have my things that I can do, and that's kind of my lane.
His scream is very loud.
My scream's pretty loud, but more than just the screaming, the singing, there's things that I couldn't do on the last record that I can do now. And we really, really pushed ourselves because there's parts that are pretty high, very high.
It's an understatement.
There's some high stuff up there. We wanted to make sure that it wasn't high just for the sake of it. We wanted it to be an apex of the song, the peak. A lot of build in a lot of the songs. Kellen was very encouraging. There's also one song we did with Josiah, which might be my favorite vocal performance. I was having a really good day in the studio.
Yeah. I'd say the same thing with me too.
Also, shout out to Josiah. We did one song with him, and it's probably the most different song on the entire project, but it's something we're super proud of. It's very different. It'll probably throw people for a loop, but we put a lot into it vocally. We think we did some pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Check us out on Facebook at I'm with Mothership.
Can you tell me what the rest of the band looks like when you go out on tour? I know Blaze has so many other responsibilities and he's moved on.
We have two guys that we bring on. You're going to see them on this tour. Their names are Caden and Eli.
Yeah. Eli Gallagher and Caden Vaughn.
Yeah.
We took them out over the summer.
So y'all already had some experience together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Caden's dad is Dale Vaughn from As We Are, and he was the drummer, and Eli was playing with them too. Eli's played with a lot of other guys too. They're really, really great musicians, great guys. It took a while to find a fit for us, but it's been really, really good. We're excited for everyone to get to know them.
So Eli is playing bass. You're doing lead. And then we got Caden on the drums. And then, of course, Brian, vocals.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right. So we've got a big tour coming up. Death by Admiration tour. As a matter of fact, by the time this airs, you'll be in the middle of that tour.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about it?
We're excited. It's a pretty packed lineup for 3 weeks. It's going to be our first tour in RV, being completely on our own. The last few tours were like with 7 Day Slumber, and we were riding in their bus. And then we've had a few like festival dates here and there where like we would drive ourselves and all that as well. But one thing that's happening this time that's a bit different is Chopper won't be going with us this time. He's with us like all the time. For those who don't know, Chopper is my father, but he's unfortunately unable to come with us this time because my mom is having surgery. So he's got to kind of stay behind and stay with her. But it's okay. Marcos Pops is coming with us for like the first week, and then, we're splitting up driving and all that stuff.
Tell us what your dad, Chopper, does for the band.
It's more like what doesn't he do? He does a lot. I mean, obviously, besides like being on stage with us and all that, he is pretty much like our unofficial official manager. He books interviews. He helps with like tour booking and everything. A lot of like the merch things comes through him. Like he'll come up with a lot of ideas. He'll like bounce things off with like Marco's dad here and there as well with ideas. Most of the merch ideas like kind of like come into like our house, whatever, and like we'll get the orders going. I'll be like, just tell me what I need to do and I'll get it done. And you handle the rest. And it wasn't like because it was just like a delegated responsibility type thing. He wanted to take on like a lot of those responsibilities. Really passionate about us and about music in general. Yeah. I mean, I don't know where a lot of what we do would be without him.
Now, Brian, you do audio engineering too. Where are you in that process and learning and implementing?
I have some clients that come in and like I'll help some people write songs and record some of their songs. A lot of the guys that come to me are actually rappers, which is funny because like I essentially know nothing about hip hop today. Like they usually hear it from like a friend of a friend, like a friend of mine. They'll be like, dude, this guy's a great producer. You should go to him. And they'll come over and then they'll become clients. I'm like, all right, yeah. He's like, yeah, he did my rap stuff, whatever. He's like, oh, cool. So
you do that out of your home?
Yeah. I do that at my home. Usually, like, my setup would be in a warehouse or something. Like, I used to do it at our church's warehouse, but we traded out the warehouse for an actual building. We're not having services in the building or anything like that. We're still renovating, and we're building a studio in the church as well. So for now, because of like a lot of like waiting period and all that, I had kind of like took it upon myself when we got rid of the warehouse stuff and all that. We're not going to be going into that building in a while. So I'm just going to take all the studio stuff to my house and just do what we can. I'm very limited on what I could do. Like I can't like record acoustic guitar in this room or anything like that. But like, I have a mic that is very good at like isolating like outside noises and all that stuff. So I'll use that. I try to just do what I can.
Marco, what else are you doing on the side? I mean, you're always doing something somewhere.
It's all music related. I would say if I were to call something my full-time job, it'd probably be Disciple. Disciple is like my job. They're my friends. I love going out with them. They're just great people. And I've been with them now for 2 years. So yeah, I do that, and pretty much anything that works out with my schedule. Like a few weeks ago, I went out with Spoken for a weekend, played drums for them,
which is kind of different.
Yeah, well, it's not something I advertised all that much. Like it's like, oh yeah, I play drums too. There was actually a time in my life I played more drums than I played guitar. It's a very strong instrument for me. That's something I'm actually really passionate about and I love doing. So it was nice to be able to do that again.
It's like me and bass.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I'm the same way. Like I play a lot more bass than I do drums or vocals or anything like that.
Pretty much everything that I do now living here. So my wife just got her new job at Vanderbilt. Between that and me working with Disciple, and we're able to kind of do our thing and survive. It's been good.
And you're playing bass for Disciple, correct?
Yeah, very much primarily bass. I started out with them as a guitar player, and I still play guitar every now and then, but right now primarily bass.
The Death by Admiration tour, we've got you guys, and then you have Spoken, Decipher Down, and Seventh Day Slumber. Are you doing double duty?
I am. I'm playing with Decipher Down on this tour.
Guitar?
Bass.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that makes sense. I just had to think about that a minute. I have to figure out who's where.
Yeah.
All right. So, y'all excited about this tour?
Very excited. So awesome.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm very excited to be playing with Decipher Down on this one. They're a band that I've known for a long time, respected them. You know, TJ is awesome, an amazing musician, amazing vocalist. I'm excited to be playing with Harrison and playing with just playing with that whole crew. Because, like, the way it happened is Chris Furr, their bass player, made a status saying that he can't make it. And I was like, hey, I'm going to be on the tour. And then TJ was like, all right, let's do it. You know, it was literally like that.
Awesome. Okay, so I have to ask Brian what his favorite road snacks are.
You know, there's so many that I like. I really like peanut M&Ms.
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
Yeah,
We didn't ask you, Marco.
Peanut M&Ms. I prefer those over regular M&Ms. I don't mind regulars, but you know, that's my preference. And I think we all love beef jerky, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a requirement for being in a band.
Yeah, like beef jerky and like Doritos and whatever.
Which sucks because beef jerky smells pretty bad.
I hear you. Are you still on hot Cheetos, Mr. Pera?
Oh yeah, that is like my go-to.
And Sheets.
Oh, Sheets is we're gonna be in Sheets territory.
A few weeks ago, so Disciple, we were in the North Carolina area, and I think I had it 3 times in a weekend.
Yeah, any tour that Matt Baird's on, there's gonna be some Sheets.
Oh,
every
traffic.
Time, I take a picture and send him a text every time.
Yeah.
Yep.
What's y'all's favorite Sheets thing on the menu?
I always get the same thing. I always get an app sampler and I get a spring chicken flatbread. That is like my order when I go there.
Oh, I might check that out. You know, we're gonna be going to Uprise, so hey. That's really the only time we're near a Sheets.
Yeah, mine is the Big Ma's. It's a burger with mozzarella sticks on it.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, we did try the mozzarella sticks. That was good. Yeah. Well, can you tell us any other tours or any other festivals that you are announced already for?
Sure.
Yeah, actually.
So in the summer for festivals, we are playing KCF. We're playing Life Fest. Is there another one, Brian?
I don't know if we have any more festivals, but I think we're trying to plan more dates in between.
We're very excited about after the summer, we have a tour with Disciple.
In October, right?
In October, and it's going to be a really good one too. We're really excited about that one.
Disciple and the Protest. I think that's been announced and all that.
So it's been announced, but there aren't any dates yet?
It has been announced. I don't know if the dates have been announced.
I don't think so.
There are a lot of dates already booked, so I imagine when the time gets closer, there'll be some more announcements pertaining to it.
My plans stop around October because I've got Loud and Proud September 29th and October 1st.
Yeah, Disciples going to Loud and Proud, and then right after that is the tour.
Right. So, Marco, you're playing with Disciple in Germany?
Yeah. I'm excited.
It's going to be great.
We would love to go back to Germany.
Yeah,
we haven't been since 2019.
Maybe we'll get an opportunity to see Amongst the Giants there. Thank you so much for hopping on here and talking to me about your new stuff and about the tour.
It's great to see you. Hopefully we'll see you in Florida.
For sure. Yeah, but we're planning on it. So we'll see you there.
Awesome.
All right. Good night, guys.
Good night.
Thank you for listening. Stay tuned for more great music. Check out my blog on the Solid Rock Radio website for my guests' social media links. If you missed a past interview, you can find them uploaded to podcast.solidrockradio.org. Have a wonderful week, and let's be kind to one another.